Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Monday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We're going to talk a lot of football, a lot of good stuff in the sports world this weekend. Second portion of the show, we're going to be joined by Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. He was in Oxford. We'll recap some of the Gator game, get his thoughts. But first, we're going to go to the Titan Tomorrow hotline. We're joined by JC. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Yeah, hey guys, good to be with you again. The QB, a beautiful Monday. We are now finally in the Monday review mode of our first game of the season, and I'll tell you the thing that stuck out to me over this weekend, and I had a great weekend, QB. Thank you for asking. I didn't play well at tennis, but I watched a lot of football, and what I really was amazed at with the idea that there was no spring practice, and they've had maybe 2 practices with contact, was how good the offenses were in the SEC in week 1. And I know that there are some glaring weaknesses on defense with some of these teams, but I also know that offensively the efficiency was just much more proficient than I thought we would see in week 1, especially with the fact that, again, limited contacted practices and no spring practice. And look at how good the Kyles played, and look at how good Mississippi State played. Ole Miss even had obviously a great offensive day, and I just was taken by how good the offenses were. Or could it be that the defenses are just not there yet? I think it's the former over the latter. The offenses took over the day in college football, and I thought it was a really good weekend to watch it.
Well, the offenses have taken over all of football at every level
pretty much
in the last couple of years. The game has changed. It's just the game is formatted now with rules and things of that nature to favor the offense. And the days of teams having great defenses are done. I mean, you think of Alabama, you think of great defenses. They haven't been good in defense in the last couple of years, and I don't think they're great this year on defense. So I don't think anybody's going to play great defense just because the game is favored for the offense.
Well, certainly, and I think Florida's effort in that game. You mentioned the weakness up front in the front 7, but I do think Sean Davis being tossed was a factor for the backfield and defensive backfield at Florida. But I don't think I don't know how much that would have affected the way Ole Miss was able to score. But I tell you who else played well that I really thought was pretty darn good was Miller. He played a lot of plays on the defensive side, or 50. I don't know how many plays he had, but he seemed like he was literally in on every single play. And I guess the concern would be that over 100 and some odd years of football, the Florida defense allowed more yardage. I think only twice has Florida allowed more yardage in over 100 years of football than it did on Saturday. It happened against Alabama, I think, in 2014, and it also happened in the Fiesta Bowl against Nebraska back in '96. Outside of that, this was the most yardage a Florida defense has given up. So you have to give credit a little bit to Mississippi for sure, but the defense is something you're going to have to really pay attention to. But if I was going to highlight anything, I thought Ventrell Miller was pretty good. I mean, he had 15 tackles, but nobody really noticed it. And that blitz he had, I think it was in the first quarter, or it was a sack on a delayed blitz. It really showed that look, there are plays that he can make on this defense that he's going to have to make. And I think one of his plays forced a flag or something that negated a touchdown pass. So those are the kind of things, disruption of the opposing offense is what you're looking for from linebackers. And I thought Ventrell, if I was going to say, all right, here's a check mark for somebody on the defense, I have to say Ventrell Miller was one of the guys on the Florida defense for sure.
He was flying around. He made a lot of plays, no question about it. And I can't remember if I said it on our show. I've been on so many shows in the last 2 weeks that, people always want to ask my concerns about whatever team we're talking about. And my concerns going into this season, having seen the 2 scrimmages leading up to the year, that it was defensive line play. I know people, we didn't have Moon playing. He was out.
Right.
But my point is,
and so was Sean Davis. I thought Sean Davis.
But that has nothing to do with the damn defensive line, JC. Zero.
Well, I get that, but that it does kind of you got to have somebody in the backside too.
I agree. I understand that, but your DBs are only as good as your front four, and the problem that I saw against Ole Miss was, and Ole Miss is very good on offense, and they really can scheme you, is we couldn't pressure with our front four. The only time we got pressure was when we blitzed, and I'm telling you, the D line going into the season was my major concern. And and my eyes told me again that is going to be the issue with our football team. Now, having said that, we're going to have to outscore people. Now, Ole Miss is going to I'm going to make a prediction right now. Ole Miss will give up more than 35 points every game they play this year. That is my prediction. They are so bad on defense. They are worse than some of the Big 12 defenses. It is just so bad how Ole Miss is. Give our guys credit because we made plays. We had the opportunities. We made the plays, but we're not going to go up and down the field on other SEC teams like Ole Miss because they were bad. But I thought Kyle Trask was very efficient. Obviously
Pitts.
Pitts is what he is. But I also told people were concerned about losing our four senior receivers. I told them that we are loaded at receiver. We have so many young players that are just waiting their turn that there should be no concern there. So I think we came out of the game healthy. It was a good win, good way to start the season. But it will be a little bit tougher this Saturday against South Carolina.
There's no question that we're going to see a huge upgrade defensively with South Carolina coming in than what we saw. But I like the way Pierce blocked to protect Trask. I liked the way Tony played. Obviously, was much more active and had more.
Speaking of Tony, I could be wrong, but it was so nice to see him catch a touchdown pass. I don't know if it was a post or a crossing route. I really believe that's the first pass in his career he's caught past 5 yards. Usually he catches shallow crosses and things of that nature. But he played very well. And hopefully he can stay healthy and have a big year. But JC, I got to ask you this: you're a numbers guy, right?
Sometimes, sometimes.
Okay. So
I'll try to be.
Stats sometimes are for losers, but I got to ask you this because I don't understand how the formula is for quarterback rating. Okay, so Kyle Trask had a tremendous game. He was 30 of 42 for 416 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions for a quarterback rating of 201.8. Okay. Matt Corral goes 22 of 31 for 395, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and his rating is 203.5.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Well,
we need to get so you're asking me how do they calculate the quarterback rating?
It's crazy formula, but it's just hard to believe that his rating would be higher than Kyle Trask.
It is. But what was important was Trask was 5 of 5 in the red zone with leading the Florida offense, and Corral was 4 out of 8. So you had a 100% efficiency compared to a 50% efficiency in the red zone. I'll take that. Kyle Pitts was double teamed all damn day. It didn't matter. He's an NFL player. So this is the kind of things we're looking for on this team. Who's the guys we're going to see play on Sunday, taking charge of games today for the Florida Gators. And those are obviously the 2 Kyles were the big ones. But I love the way Pierce protected by blocking in the backfield. I love the way Grimes played. I love the way Tony played. The offensive line, Really, I mean, Trask was clean for most of the game. So that's the kind of thing. Now, granted, you're right. They're playing a flag football defense. There's no question about it. Worst defense in the conference, maybe one of the worst in the country. But if that's the case, you have to look good when you play them, and Florida did. So other than what Mississippi State was able to do against a much better defense, a more athletic defense, the Florida offense was the story. I think in week one, well, I consider week one in SEC football because, damn it, the Gators have to show everybody in the country, including the school up in Athens, that this team is a real threat. Not just talk about it. We don't want to hear sports writers talk about it. We got to see it happen. And so, frankly, I thought it was a really good debut. And yes, there are concerns on defense, but I think Todd Grantham is going to earn his money. He's got to figure out a way to keep that defense together and get more pressure on the opposing team through their offensive line. So I don't know. I think it's it's a week one type of scenario, but I don't think it could have gone any better offensively.
Yeah, refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. September's your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with JC on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. We'll be joined by Scott Carter from CarterGators.com here shortly. JC, speaking of the Georgia Bulldogs, they sputtered around with their 5-star quarterback DeJuan Mathis, who
he's not ready.
I've only seen a half of football. Ready. Well, I don't see a guy that can play quarterback. I've seen one half of football, and it ain't a whole lot. But usually, you can watch a guy play and say he can play or he can't play. I don't think the guy can play. Okay,
right.
That goes to show you that these ratings sometimes mean absolutely nothing. Having said that,
it does.
But listen, having said that, the kid they put in the second half, Stetson Bennett, goes 20 of 29 for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. A walk-on quarterback who's barely 5'11", 180 pounds. He was at Georgia a couple years ago because his families are big donors to Georgia. Good high school player. The reason I know all this is because when we went on our visit, my son is about his size, and they were saying that he reminded him of Stetson. He's there for a couple of years as a walk-on running scout team, goes and plays at a smaller college, came back this past year, and now he's playing and probably will be their starter the rest of the year. You know, everybody's talking about JT Daniels. Okay. Last time I checked, JT Daniels –
he's not healthy.
Well, whether he's healthy or not, it ain't like he's the damn next coming of Peyton Manning.
No, I mean, he couldn't cut it at Pac-12 school at USC. Right. My God, I mean,
he had a very average career there. He only played a little bit. But my point is, I think Stetson Bennett's going to be your quarterback the rest of the year for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Well, I will say this. He will definitely be the starter against Auburn, and it will not be as comfortable for him in that game as it was against Arkansas. With all that being said, he deserves he saved the game for Georgia. Frankly, he did. Because if they don't make that move and they tinker around and end up winning the game by 6 points or something, then the rest of the world thinks Georgia's garbage and this and that and the other, and it's not true. But he did save the game, made it look like Georgia was in control for the most of the game, which they were not. And I don't know what it is with Kirby Smart. He has problems with these types of quarterbacks that he started in that game. He had a problem with Justin Fields. He wouldn't play Justin Fields, and Justin Fields hit the road, right? Justin Fields then goes to Ryan Day's offense, and look what happens. Now they're thinking he's the second coming, and he's great. So I don't know what it is with quarterbacks at Georgia, but there is a certain type of quarterback that does well in the Kirby Smart way, and there's another one that doesn't. And whether or not that 5-star kid is really good or not, I don't really think he is, but we didn't really think much of Justin Fields either when he was at Georgia because he didn't get to play much, and the reason he didn't get to play much is because Kirby went with Jake Fromm. Having said all that, your kid Stetson did a tremendous job with the pressure he was under in the second half. He only played a half a game. So just imagine if he had gotten his feet wet and gotten the blood flow and everything going earlier in the game, the kind of afternoon he could have had with more playing time and playing 4 quarters instead of 2. Georgia will be okay, but the challenge this week will be dramatically different when Auburn's coming at them because Auburn's pretty salty on defense, as you saw with what they did to Kentucky. So,
well, that's true, but honestly, Kentucky gave them that game. Kentucky had so many opportunities to take the lead, and
they're Kentucky.
They had the ball on the 1-yard line to go up a touchdown and throw a pick six, although it didn't count.
Pick six. Yeah.
But anyway, so JC, going to Tiger Stadium, LSU loses to Mississippi State. To me, this was the most impressive thing of the entire week. The reason you got a brand new coach, a brand new quarterback, you got a team that goes to the defending national champs. Now, listen, everybody wants to blame Miles Brennan. I thought Miles Brennan played pretty well. The guy threw for 345 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yes. They just ran into an offense that is going to throw for tons of yards week in and week out. And I've said it when Leach was hired. He is now coaching at a school that has really good athletes that they can finally play some defense. And I thought Mississippi State's defense was the difference in that game.
They did. They had seven quarterback sacks in that game against LSU. Now, LSU got into a position where they had to do a lot of throwing, right? But they couldn't run the ball either. So you're right. Mississippi State's defense was somewhat overshadowed by the performance of their offense and specifically their quarterback and wide receivers. In that game, QB, it shocked me more than anything that Mississippi State had 3 guys receiving for more than 100 yards. 3 guys had more than 100 yards receiving for Mississippi State, including the running back, who was tremendous. No, it's a whole new world right now in Starkville. And after what they had to live with Moorhead for the last 2 years, this is just a real kick in the pants. And Mississippi State, you can make the argument, is one of the 4 best teams in the conference and probably the 2nd best team in the West. And who knows, they'll get their chance to be the 1st best team in the West later on. But there's no question that was the story of the weekend, or the shocker of the weekend. LSU lost so many players, so much personnel, including coaches. But, Dave Aranda leaves and goes to coach Baylor, and you had Joe Brady leave to go coach the offense at the Carolina Panthers. That's a lot to ask kids to try to get used to. But they lost a lot of players, but they're still LSU. They still have great athletes, and they were still favored by more than 16 points in that game, and Mississippi State just ran up and down the field at will. So I was stunned by that. Absolutely. I didn't know KJ was – he had 35 passing attempts in the first half. So it was quite a day. The numbers just don't do it justice. It was just they do it justice, but it was shocking to see the effectiveness that they had in that game. And they tried to give it away, frankly, with some of the turnovers. But I think in that kind of offense, you're going to get that. And like I said at the beginning of the show, without the benefit of spring practice, without the benefit of much at all during the fall in terms of contact, you really have to be amazed at the effectiveness and I guess the efficiency of some of these offenses, specifically Florida's and definitely Mississippi State's.
Yeah, I thought the Tennessee-South Carolina game was a very competitive game.
Yeah, it was good.
Both teams are going to win some games this year. But I'm not getting on the Tennessee. Well, Tennessee has the longest winning streak in the country right now. Did you know that?
I see, and that was because of the finish they had last year. But the Gamecocks, I don't know, man. I don't know what their identity is yet. I don't think they know, but I'll tell you, they're going to come in here losers of 15 out of 17 this weekend. And poor Will, he's 2-14 against ranked teams. They just don't have. I don't know what the extra thing is that they need to get over the hump, but. If they're going to compete with Florida and try to keep this game close, I'm not really sure what they can do or what they're going to do. But I would like to think that Florida, will get better numbers-wise defensively against a team like that, as opposed to a team like Mississippi or Mississippi State, who's just going to air it out all day.
Yeah. I was very surprised at how lackluster performance Texas A&M had. They struggled.
I was too. I don't understand that.
Vandy is horrible too.
Yeah, so. I don't understand that effort. They better get better because they're going to Tuscaloosa. So I don't expect much out of them this weekend. And I do think you're right. I think Mississippi State has to be regarded as a threat to win the West, or at least the 2nd best team in the West, as opposed to previously thought of A&M. Now this is after 1 week, granted. And KJ Costello, as great as he played, he did turn the ball over. He had some issues. But again, that's what's going to happen in Mike Leach's offense. You're going to see that from time to time. And I just can't imagine a debut going any better for him and for them, and any worse for a school like Texas A&M, the way they and Kentucky, with the way they didn't protect the football and just kind of got careless when they had a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, the Big 12, Oklahoma loses again to Kansas State. So they're done.
Shocking.
They are done. Texas should have lost. They had a miracle comeback in overtime.
Yeah.
But here's my thing.
Yeah.
You can go ahead I can go ahead and tell you the 14 playoff right now, JC. Right now, after 1 week of SEC play, we're going to put Ohio State in there because they're going to go 7-0 or however many games they're playing.
8-0, okay. Right?
They're going to go 8-0. Clemson's going to run the table, and then we're going to have 2 SEC teams in the Final Four.
Yeah, you're going to have the winner of the SEC and the team that they probably end up playing against in the SEC championship game December 19th. And I totally agree with that. The Pac-12 will not be a factor with only 7 games. The Big Ten will have 1 team just like the ACC, and that'll be it. The rest of those teams will have good bowl games to go to. Miami will go to a good bowl game. Maybe Penn State will go to a good bowl game. But you're right. I think that's exactly what we're looking at right now, barring injuries and things that we can't predict. But it'll be fine with me. I loved it that year that Georgia and Alabama went to the Final Four a couple years back, and I think it's really great for the conference. So, this is the first week in my mind. This is week 1 of the football season in my mind because of what we got to watch in this conference on Saturday, and it's just going to get better, I think. And hopefully, these kids will stay healthy. They'll stay safe, and each team will be able to put out its best roster on Saturdays, and we'll have as good a season as we could have possibly hoped for with all of the obstacles and all of the adversity we've had to deal with.
Now, a few more minutes with JC here on the Titan MR Hotline. We'll be joined shortly by Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. So, JC, we gotta talk about. We have to talk about the debacle down in Miami. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if Florida State can beat Jacksonville State next week. Now, Jacksonville State is usually a very good little program. However, this will be their first game. They're only playing 4 games this year. They're one of those smaller FCS schools that's just playing a few games. So, but this is the only win I think Florida State may get this year. They are as bad of a football team as I've ever seen.
Well, we talked about it last week. There's nothing there that I saw when they played Georgia Tech that made me think that they could beat Miami, and there's nothing there that they put out on the field as a product against Miami that, like you, would lead me to believe they're going to win more than 1 or 2 games. Jacksonville State should have beat them 2 years ago, or however many years ago it was. I think it was 2 years ago in Doak Campbell Stadium. They should have won that game. And yeah, you're right. Here's a bigger question: is the over/under on fan attendance at Doak Campbell Stadium? I want to put it at 7,000, and I wouldn't be too shocked to see the under come in on that because of the effort we've seen the first 2 weeks out of that school. They are probably, if not the worst, one of the worst teams in Florida alone, just in the state alone.
No, they're the worst team in Florida.
Okay,
easily
maybe they
worst
are.
Team. Who's better than them? Who are they better?
Well, who are they better than? Probably none, but I didn't want to just come out and say that. But you're probably right. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not a shock to me to believe that because of what we've seen the first 2 weeks. It's hard for me to believe that it's gotten that bad. I mean, Georgia
Tech hasn't won a game since then. They're 1-2, and they've been horrible.
No, I mean, it was ugly. So certainly that's a problem. I will tell you nothing. I got an anecdotal story for you here before you let me go. I was at the World of Beer Saturday night watching the Alabama game because there's a little club we have that goes and watches the games in these restaurants in our little room and everything. And there were 3 out of the 5 televisions up on the wall above the taps had the hockey game on, and there were students in there rooting like hell for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So there is interest in the Tampa Bay Lightning, QB, and you know it. And right now they've got a chance to win the Stanley Cup. They didn't take advantage of it on Saturday night. Stamkos is not going to be able to play anymore, so they're going to have to do it without him. But they've got 2 shots. They've got 2 shots to win the Stanley Cup. And then Game 6 is tonight. And credit Dallas for hanging in there and being tough. And if Dallas wins Game 6, then Dallas is going to be favored in Game 7. So this is interesting. I thought that was a unique kind of thing I wanted to bring to your attention. And then I also thought yesterday in the NFL, it was more of the same. You saw the bad teams always find ways to lose, except my Lions, who pulled it out at Arizona. You were stunned that they could win at Arizona, but that's the Lions team that I was talking about a month ago, and I'm sticking with the Lions even though they'll lose next weekend to the Saints, I think. The Saints can't stop anybody. The Rams had a great comeback. They got screwed on a PI call, but I heard that all the calls before that went their way, so they have nothing to complain about. Nevertheless, they were down to a very good team, 28-3, and Josh Allen is the real deal in Buffalo. I think they are the favorites to win that division, and it's nice to see somebody other than New England. And speaking of New England, QB, they are not a patsy. They are the Patriots. And Cam Newton is there, and they will win some games that could go to the playoffs. So they're not done yet either. Houston's a huge disappointment. Tonight's game with Kansas City and Baltimore should be tremendous. And I think the NFC West is clearly the best division in football. There's your wrap. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, Russell Wilson is your early MVP. He is
MVP,
playing
absolutely.
unbelievable
No,
what he's doing right now.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And yet Dallas still had a chance to win.
The Atlanta Falcons have blown in the last 2 weeks, not in like multiple years, but in the last 2 weeks, 16-point fourth quarter leads. It is truly amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Quinn's not fired by Wednesday. Another person that probably should be fired is Adam Gase with the Jets. And then
I don't know how he got the job to begin with.
I agree, and I don't know if you saw the overtime with the Bengals and the Eagles. Okay,
I did. The Eagles punted. I know. I saw that.
No idea what Doug Peterson. that goes to show you.
I will tell you what it is.
He has zero confidence in his quarterback. Zero.
Absolutely zero. And yet they still, every single week. What's the story with the Philadelphia Eagles? It's their injury issues. I've never seen a team have more hurt players than the Philadelphia Eagles. It's almost as if these guys just don't want to play. I mean, I can't believe how they're always injured. And it's just amazing that they threw in the towel there right at the end. And you're right about that. But I think the only thinking I could come up with was that, okay, if we don't make it, we give Joe Burrow one play with one timeout to get the ball into field goal range.
Who cares? If you have a first-round quarterback who's being paid tons of money, I don't give a damn if he's got a Pop Warner O-line. Take your steps, make a decision, and let the ball go somewhere. But I cannot believe they decided to punt. Yeah. Anyway, JC, good stuff, man. We appreciate you joining the show. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.
You got it. Okay.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan MRI hotline. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida. And understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. Going to take our first time out of the pro. When we come back, we'll be joined by FloridaGators.com senior writer, Mr. Scott Carter. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Hey Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Check out our show Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
GTS Handyman Services, whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting in Gainesville, they are the team to hire.
Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance, Pomodoro Cafe,
Big Mills Cheesesteaks,
MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Monday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. We'll go now to the Titan MRI hotline, and we're joined by our man, Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. Good morning, Scott. How are you, buddy?
Hey, good morning, Shane. Nice to actually have a game that's been played to talk about this week, huh?
No doubt about it, and it was a good one, no doubt. We played extremely well from an offensive standpoint. First of all, before we get into the game, Scott, you were in Oxford at Bolt Hemingway Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I know you just y'all flew in there and flew back, but was it weird finally covering a game and no tailgating, not a whole lot of folks in the stands? How weird was it?
It was certainly the most unique Gators game I've ever been to. You knew it was going to be like that beforehand, but until you experience it, you just don't know what you're going to feel. So it was, you got to the stadium there and about an hour and a half before kickoff, and it was almost like it was a spring game that didn't have a lot of fans. There was no lines outside, and I walked all the way around the stadium just to try to get a sense of the game day there. And I mean, obviously, Ole Miss is famous for its Grove. I walked over there, and very quiet, very little traffic on the streets. And as the game got nearer, you saw, there was a few more people outside, but it was nothing like we are accustomed to, Shane, in the SEC. Obviously, on Saturdays, these towns, these college towns, become a big party, and it's an event. It was muted to some degree. The people I talked to there, I mean, they were all glad to be there because they were there. They found their way there, and they were happy that football was back. But they all said, it did feel different, with the health and safety requirements in place, a lot of empty seats. But I thought overall, when you're up in the press box, you're kind of get into your work mode. It really felt normal during the game, and that part of it was just the stuff that goes along with SEC football on a fall Saturday, the tailgate and not seeing all that stuff. That was weird. The strangeness really hit me.
Yeah. Speaking with Scott Carter here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Scott, let's start with the offense. I thought the offense didn't miss a beat. I thought, obviously, Kyle Trask had a tremendous day. Kyle Pitts, another great day. But, I did so many shows during the pandemic and leading up to the first game, and I'm sure you did as well. Everybody was concerned from an offensive standpoint. We lose 4 senior receivers to the NFL. What are they going to do there? And I told them, I said, they will be fine. It was good to see not only Grimes and Tony make plays, but a lot of the young guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That was an area of concern. I think a lot more for fans and people the coaches and the staff who are really familiar with the talent there. But I thought Kadarius Toney, a great debut for him, seeing him that involved. That's something that they've wanted to do for a long time. Health reasons often have held him back getting injured. I think Trayvon Grimes, he's maybe their most talented receiver they've had in years. I think he's primed for a big season. The young guys you mentioned, some of those guys like Frazier and Xavier Henderson, the coaches really love all those guys and their talent. So I think the position's going to be fine. And of course, when you have a tight end like Kyle Pitts, Shane, that makes everything a little easier for Kyle Trask and those receivers because they don't necessarily have to be the go-to guy. They knew who the go-to guy, and that was Kyle Pitts, and we all saw what he did on Saturday. Just one of those performances that, all the preseason discussion about this team, when you talked about the offense, it was always Kyle Pitts and Kyle Trask. Those two guys have to be the centerpiece. And sure enough, it played out exactly that way on Saturday.
Yeah, and you got to think, I mean, even though they double teamed him, he's just bigger, stronger, and has better ball skills. And a couple times Kyle Trask got away with some throws, just trusting his receiver in Kyle Pitts, and Pitts went up and made plays. You got to think eventually, they're going to try to take him out of the offense. That's what Bill Belichick does so well. Whoever the other team's best player, he doesn't allow that guy to beat you. We will see if defensive coordinators decide to do that. You mentioned Toney. I thought Kadarius Toney, it was the best I've ever seen him play as a Gator. I know he's had some electrifying runs, but he was solid. He didn't try to run backwards like he does sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
He stuck his foot in the ground and went forward. But it was great to see him actually catch a ball down the field. I can't remember him ever catching a pass past 5 yards, and he catches that touchdown. Your thoughts on Kadarius Toney?
No, I'm on the exact same page you are, Shane. I thought that was his best overall game that I've seen him play. Again, he's made some spectacular plays, and that's what he's known for. But it's the routine plays where you know that they can depend on him in certain situations and down and distance that I think he needs to be better at. And I think we got a glimpse of that. He still had his big play with that 50-yard run. But he was down the field more in the receiving game, made the catches, and still has that great athleticism and shiftiness once he catches the ball. Is always a threat to go to distance anytime he touches the ball. But I think what they really would love to see out of him more is exactly what we saw on Saturday. And if Kadarius Toney can do that and stay healthy, wow, that adds such a different wrinkle to this offense, and it certainly helps his case in terms of maybe playing down the road at the next level, because I think he's got to show that he can stay healthy and touch the ball more and stay on the field. And he passed with flying colors in game one.
What did Coach Mullen have to say after the game? What are his thoughts about how the offensive line played?
Yeah, I think he was overall pleased. I mean, one game, and it was obviously a game where, neither defense shined. I mean, Kyle Trask wasn't under a tremendous amount of pressure. The running game got 196 yards. You look at the stats and you're like, 196 rushes. That's a good game. He said he'll take 200 yards at any game. But then you compare that, 416 passing from Trask, and people are saying, well, it still has to be more balanced. But I think anytime you rack up 642 yards, your quarterback, I'm looking at the stats here. I can't remember if he got sacked once, threw 42 times, racked up, as I said, 196 yards rushing. So I think overall it was a pretty solid performance. I think Mullen, he didn't say anything too negatively toward them after the game. I think, with playing without Ethan White, obviously the guy they thought was going to be their starting center, they miss him because of the knee surgery. He's going to be out for a little while, so you move some pieces around up front, and whenever the replacement doesn't get spotlighted for what goes wrong whenever he's thrown in there because somebody gets hurt, that's usually a pretty decent day, Shane. So I think overall it was solid, and I think that was kind of Mullen's tone afterward.
Yeah. So did you say you heard fans complaining about us? We need to be more balanced. Or you?
It's like, somebody tweeted at me like, still throwing the ball too much.
Well, here's my reply to that.
Yeah.
A good coach, when he sees a weakness, he attacks it. And Ole Miss couldn't cover me and you running routes right now, Scott. So why the hell would we want to run it? They couldn't cover a soul. They are so bad. We played very well. For a team that hadn't played a long time. We weren't real sloppy on offense, which usually you get a lot of penalties early in the year. I thought that was great. But I do think Ole Miss is going to give up 35 or more points to everybody they play this year, unless they make some dramatic improvement. But, the hell with being balanced. That's the craziest thing I ever heard. Let's switch over to the defense side of the ball. Leading into the season, my concern for this defense was defensive line play. When you lose a guy like, I know Zuniga didn't play a whole lot, but Grenard, his leadership, his motor, just his skill, I knew that would hurt us. Now, I know we didn't have Moon playing, but I still am concerned at that position group because I thought we didn't get any pressure on the quarterback unless we blitzed. Give me your assessment of the defense.
Well, certainly has to see improvement there. I think it's kind of multi-layered. I mean, obviously – when going into that game, I sensed that the defense and Mullen and the staff, I mean, they were almost more concerned about John Reese Bumley and what he could do in the running game. I mean, they knew how dangerous he was as a runner. And a running quarterback, if they get going, the offense, they can control the pace of the game. And we saw it, against Kentucky a couple of years ago when that streak finally ended with Terry Wilson, how good he was on the ground. And I think Florida sensed maybe that they would go with Plumlee more, but of course they went with Corral, more the passing quarterback, and he certainly deserves a lot of credit. And you knew Lane Kiffin was going to do some things. I mean, he's a very talented offensive coach, so you knew Ole Miss was going to rack up some yards, but Florida has to tighten up some spots. I mean, specifically to your question about the pass rush, it wasn't what I'm sure they wanted. Obviously, the debut for Brenton Cox Jr. in the first quarter, I mean, I think he had 6 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and he did get a sack. And you're thinking, wow, this guy, he's breaking onto the scene kind of like Grenard did last year. But then, of course, Ole Miss started getting some rhythm on offense, and they made some big plays in the passing game against, one of their first ones was against Kyrie Elam. They got him turned around, and they just really did what they wanted to do in the passing game. So I think the pass rush is going to definitely be a key part of helping the secondary out and getting more pressure up front, so those guys aren't under so much pressure the entire game. Losing Jeremiah Moon didn't help. Obviously, not having Kyrie Campbell up front didn't help. I think Cox, for his first game, I mean, I thought we now know why he's such a highly recruited player. I mean, he's got some physical talent, some gifts that you can't really coach. It's just a matter of him doing it consistently. But they're going to need some more guys, whether it's Mahuma Diabate. Always butcher his name, by the way. And then, the blitz, that's the way they're going to play under Grantham, and you live and die by it. And luckily, they're able to live with a win out of this one. But it will be interesting to see if they tailor their approach some in the second game, although South Carolina's a different offense. But I think also, Shane, I don't know how much – when I think about what I've seen in college football so far, it's obvious. You know how a lot of times you always hear the defense is ahead of the offense. To me right now, the offenses are ahead of the defenses, and a lot of that goes just to the fact that, you played the game. It's hard to just go out there and get into the football mode, especially as a defender. It takes a little while to shake that rust off. I think it's easier for the offensive players, and that's why we're seeing some of what we've seen so far in the first couple weeks of college football.
Well, I agree. I think the game has changed so much over the last couple of years, especially this year, Scott. I don't think anybody's going to have a great defense. Alabama has struggled the last couple of years. Just the style of play, the game is catered towards the offense from a rule standpoint now. It's going to be hard. And yeah, a lot of people are being critical of the Gator defense, but Ole Miss is going to put points on a lot of teams. Lane does a tremendous job scheming. I thought his first couple of drives that he had scripted were outstanding. The way he called plays kept us off balance. But yes, I don't think there's ever going to be that dominant defense anymore where you hold somebody to 14 points. I just can't. Not in today's college football. No way.
Yeah, I'm there with you. And I do. If there's a positive note out of this, Shane, I think the 613 yards that Ole Miss gained, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's going to be the highest the Gators give up this year. Now, if I'm wrong, I'll buy you a beer.
I hope you're right. Speaking of John Rice Plumlee, obviously Dan Mullen and Coach Grantham don't listen to my podcast because I had Ole Miss people on all last week saying that Corral was going to be their quarterback. So they need to start. They got to start tuning in.
That's right.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're speaking of Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. Great win. We move forward towards South Carolina. I know it's early in the week. South Carolina loses a heartbreaker home to Tennessee. But South Carolina will give us a better game, don't you think, than Ole Miss did?
I do, and I do think knowing our old buddy Will Muschamp, this might have a little more of a defensive flavor to it in this game. But at the same time, I think Florida's offense is really good. I think that you'll see them still put some points on the board, and it's going to be now we get to see what the Swamp looks like in these revamped game day atmospheres. I mean, they're hoping to get 17,000 in there, a home opener. Coming off a big win, the fans are excited, and it's still going to be different here in Gainesville on Saturday. But again, it's an interesting matchup just from the history there with Muschamp and obviously the head ball coach coaching at South Carolina. I was looking up the other day. So the last time Florida was ranked number 3 in the country, which they are this week, it was in 2012 when Will Muschamp was the head coach. Steve Spurrier was the head coach of South Carolina, and Florida won that day, if you remember, Shane, 44-11. Kind of one of those weird games. And but, yeah, it's just funny how it all ties in.
Yeah. Hey, from an injury standpoint, did we make it out okay I didn't hear the press conference after the game.
Yeah, right after the game, there was nothing major that I was aware of. Mullen didn't address anything specifically. I know he just said they hope to have Campbell and Stewart back maybe this week. We'll see. He's going to talk to the media at noon, so obviously we'll find out more of those. But in terms of any in-game injuries or guys after the game you see walking around in a boot or anything, I don't recall anything of that nature.
Now, Sean Davis being kicked out for targeting, sometimes I don't understand these rules. Is he allowed to play at the beginning of the game, or does he have to sit out in the first half? How's all that work?
Since it happened in the first half, I think he is allowed to return.
Yeah, that's what I thought, which to me makes absolutely no sense. Why, if you get a targeting call in the second half, you have to sit out. But if you get a targeting call in the first half, you don't have to sit out. That makes absolutely no sense.
Well, there's several of those rules if we want to write them down in a notebook. We can probably come up with a pretty good list, right?
Yes. Real quick before we let you go, Scott, anything else stand out to you in the SEC? I mean, it was a great week, especially what Mississippi State did. Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State made headlines, and I think what you said earlier is I was thinking about this too, how the game is so turned toward offense right now. And even a program like Alabama, I mean, their defense doesn't look like Alabama's defense so far. To me, it's just going to be a wide open league. I mean, I think the Gators are in great position to do some big things this year, but there's going to be surprises every week in the league this year just because of the circumstances they're playing in, just because of, every week there's going to be some players are not going to be available for some team in a big game. So I think we're getting ready for a little bit of a roller coaster ride, Shane, in truth. And hopefully the Gators can stay at the top of that roller coaster until that Georgia game and maybe get over to Bulldogs. But, big opening week for Florida, obviously moving up to number 3, the national polls. The excitement's there. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do on Saturday against South Carolina. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. And it's going to be a weird feeling with nobody tailgating on campus come Saturday. It is so odd. So odd. Well, Scott, we appreciate you taking the time to join us, my man, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, see you guys. All right, that's Scott Carter. Join us on the Titan MR hotline from FloridaGators.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Gators Scott. We're going to take our last time out of the program here on a Monday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. GTS Handyman Services, whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting in Gainesville, they are the team to hire. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to a Monday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank Scott Carter for joining us, as well as JC. We got a couple of Facebook Live comments here. I want to read a couple of them here. This comes from Frank. It's brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. He says, were the holdouts COVID-related or suspensions from over the summer? Honestly, we don't know that, and even Scott wouldn't know the answer to that. I think they had 1 or 2 positive COVID tests, but I'm not sure. And a lot of teams are going to have that issue this year. But Florida's done a tremendous job. All the kids on the team, coaching staff, and everyone to try to stay as safe as possible. We got a text on the Titan MR text line. It comes from Jim. Jim says, Florida State has lost 22 games since 2017, and they lost 19 games between 1987 and 2000. Wow. Yeah, that program is in shambles right now. It's somewhat sad, but honestly, it's not. We love to see those guys struggle whenever we can. This Day in Sports is brought to you by GTS, Gainesville's premier maintenance company. Whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting, fences mended, or any handyman services, call GTS at 352-363-6622. This Day in Sports, in 1941, Ted Williams ended the baseball season with a .406 batting average. That happened in 1941, and it's brought to you by GTS, Gainesville's premier maintenance company. Whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting, fences mended, or any handyman services, give those folks a call, 352-363-6622. Yeah, it was a great, I hope everyone enjoyed the weekend. I did. I was a big lazy bum, watched a lot of football, tons of football, probably too much football, but I love college football and watched it basically from noon till midnight. Peaceland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peacelanddental.com. Don't forget tomorrow's show. We got Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. We'll get his thoughts on the Gators. And then we'll have former Gator quarterback Chris Leak, our all-time leading passer. We've had Chris on a couple months ago, tell you what he's doing now, but also get his thoughts on week 1 of SEC play, get his thoughts on what he thought of Kyle Trask. And so it won't be as easy this week, folks. I'm telling you, South Carolina's a little bit better than people think. And but we shall win at home. They had a heartbreaker the other day. Tonight, NFL has a tremendous game lined up for you. You got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, and should be a good one, no doubt about it. So, okay, I just had another text here, and that's it. NBA playoffs, got the NBA Finals all locked up. You got the Boston Celtics getting upset by the Miami Heat. And so you got the Heat and the Lakers going at it in the NBA Finals. And wouldn't shock me if the Heat win that one. They got some good players, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler. These guys are playing extremely well. But LeBron has another chance at another championship. We got another good lineup this week. Make sure you follow and like us on Facebook Live. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Again, I want to thank Scott Carter for joining us today. And again, you can follow him at Twitter at Gator Scott, and JC for joining us as well. Don't forget, tomorrow will be Chris Leak and Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. Today's show is going to be a wrap brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe out there, folks. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Take care.
So we know those are your best sellers, but from your paintings that you've sold, which probably is your favorite one? And tell us what it sold for. If you're allowed to tell us.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you my favorite that I have right now, and sometimes I'll sell pieces and they're commissions, and so the whole time I'm working on them, they're sold, and some will sell right away. But sometimes I'll beg people, hey, just let me hang on to it and just breathe it in and enjoy it for a month. And I'm not sure if the text will flip around, but I'm sure you've seen this one. This is my favorite one that I have right now, and I've got a couple people. One guy actually in Knoxville. It doesn't fit on his wall, but he's trying to find a way because he likes it so much. He's a Gator living up in Knoxville, and if you can't read it really good, it's really one of my favorite quotes. And we sit and share all of our head ball coach quotes anytime we're together. And I had never heard this one until the end of The Believer, the documentary that was on the SEC network. And it was Coach Stoops that was telling it, how we always have that bye week before Tennessee, and how Coach made all the coaches take their wives to Crescent Beach. And we're out floating in the ocean. This is Stoops telling the story. We're out floating in the ocean in Crescent Beach. And Spurrier says to me, Stoopsy, think those Tennessee coaches are out floating in the ocean right now? And I just love everything about that line. So I had to do it. And I think at some point I need to make like a just Coach Spurrier floating in that inner tube and put Crescent Beach, Florida. It'd be like Mom and Dad went to Crescent Beach and all I got was this crummy T-shirt.